Hi, everybody. On behalf of Hawaii EV Association, our partners Blue Planet Foundation and Drive Electric Hawaii, I'd like to welcome you to our National Drive Electric Week webinar series. We have two. Today's event will cover electric vehicle ownership. We have a packed but fun schedule, and I hope you will agree. This particular event is in celebration of National Drive Electric Week. We're on our 10th annual celebration. It's presented by Plug-in America, Sierra Club, and the Electric Auto Association. We normally would be holding these events in person, and while we miss those, clearly we're not able to do it at this point in time. That said, we're very thankful that we have the opportunity to come together. My name is Noel Marin, one of the leaders of Hawaii EV Association. My colleagues Bill Bugbee, Nanette Vinton, Sonia Cass, Tam Hunt, Olivia Daria, and also our partner Lauren Reichelt of Blue Planet will be presenting in our event today. We have a great lineup, lots to cover. We'll be covering benefits and incentives. We'll be talking about tips on buying your first EV and also information on EV charging. Importantly, we have several owners from across the state who will be sharing with you their experiences about EV ownership, and we'll give you the opportunity to ask questions. We will also have great giveaways, and you'll want to stay for the very end. We have our grand prize that will be announced at the end. I want to call attention to our chat feature. So at the very bottom of your Zoom window, if you hover, you'll see a whole bunch of controls. There's a chat feature there. If you click on that, you should be able to submit questions. Okay, earlier this week, I got a call from the governor's office, and they let me know that there was a proclamation made by Governor Ige. And I won't read through all the details here, but to just state that there's acknowledgement at the state level very clearly and obviously that there's something that must be done about our carbon emissions. And there's something that can be done about it, and many of us are doing something about it, and that is to transition to emission-free transportation. The electric car is a prime example of that. In response to National Drive Electric Week, he's actually declared September 26th through October 4th as National Drive Electric Week throughout the state. And so hopefully you all agree as well. I'll spend a few moments just talking about our organization, Hawaii EV Association. This is the Hawaii chapter of the Electric Auto Association. The EAA chapter for the longest time was Big Island EV. However, we felt like there was value in us expanding our reach across the state, and to ensure that grassroots organizations with similar intentions can get together, collaborate, share resources, and be essentially a louder voice. So we recently formed this association, and we have members of the group who are also members of Kauai EV, Big Island EV, Tesla Hawaii Club, and we hope to have additional clubs or groups from Maui as well as in Oahu joining our group. I want to emphasize this is grassroots. We're all volunteer. It's a nonprofit, and we're essentially owners, EV advocates, individuals who want to make a difference in the electrification of transportation here in the state. Okay, I'd like to transition now to one of our guest speakers, Lauren Reichelt from Blue Planet. She's the Director of Clean Transportation, and she'll be sharing with you great information about benefits and incentives.
Thanks, Noel. So I'm going to talk a bit about benefits and incentives. A lot of you are already familiar with this information, but for those of you who aren't, that's really who we're targeting today. So Noel, I'm just gonna let you know when it's time to switch over slides, and we'll tag team this. So yeah, so hi everyone. We can go to my first slide. So thanks to Hawaii EV Association for hosting this and inviting me to join. We're really lucky here in Hawaii to have such enthusiastic EV owners and advocates here in Hawaii. So my name is Lauren Reichelt. I'm the Clean Transportation Director at Blue Planet Foundation and the coordinator of the Sustainable Transportation Coalition of Hawaii. Blue Planet Foundation, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a local nonprofit organization committed to clearing the path for 100% clean energy. I'm also here to represent Drive Electric Hawaii. Got my shirt on and everything, which is a coalition of Hawaii government, nonprofit, and private stakeholders. It was established in 2015, and we're working to promote EV awareness and adoption in Hawaii. So Blue Planet supports Drive Electric's education, outreach, and communications campaigns. So yeah, I'm going to talk about benefits and incentives of driving an EV and try really hard to stick to time. Slide. So why electric? There are a lot of reasons for EV adoption. And here in Hawaii, EVs make even more sense with our low overall driving distances. We can't really go that far before we end up where we started. And we have great weather for battery chemistry. So on top of that, as Hawaii moves to 100% renewable energy by 2045, these cars are getting cleaner and cleaner for the environment every single day. So EVs just overall have a better driving experience than gas cars. They handle better than gas cars. With no engine, you get instant power to the motor, which gives you that instant torque and that instant speed. It almost feels like a spaceship. And the lack of motor also means a really nice, smooth, quiet ride. You can hear your music better. You can hear your passengers better. There's more space for storage in some of the models. There's a front trunk because there's no engine up there and no smelly emissions being emitted. There's also some safety implications of EVs. So there's a larger crumple zone because that engine's not in the front. And then also a low center of gravity. The battery's on the bottom of the car, so it's less likely to roll over on you. You'll also see decreased maintenance costs because you won't need oil changes, transmission fluid, any new engine parts. Brakes are gonna last longer because of regenerative braking. So the car actually slows on its own when you let off the power, the acceleration, which they use that kinetic energy to recharge the battery, which means you don't have to push as hard on your brakes, which actually extends their lifetime, and means you don't have to pay as often for new brakes. Really, you end up, oh, let's go back actually. You'll end up being responsible for tire rotations and changes, wiper fluids and wiper blades. And of course, if you go with a plug-in hybrid instead of a full battery electric vehicle, you won't see those benefits in the same way. So that's definitely where the EV sort of is definitely one step ahead of the plug-in hybrid. So here's a chart showing the results of a study that was comparing maintenance costs of gas cars to electric cars in Canada. And you can see that the overall maintenance costs are almost double in a gas car what they would be for an electric vehicle. So it really just goes to show how dramatic those maintenance cost savings can be. EVs are highly efficient because of the way energy is transferred to the battery and the direct battery to motor system, and because the car regeneratively brakes, you end up using less fuel overall. Which leads me to reduce fuel costs. So these efficiencies can help you to save money through EV ownership. Of course, if you're charging on solar, you'll certainly see savings, and potentially you could charge your car for free if you have excess solar midday, if that aligns with your schedule and you're home during the day. But even if you charge from the grid, you can see fuel cost savings compared to gasoline. Hawaiian Electric offers time of use rates, and they charge monthly, and they differ by island. Or I mean, they change monthly, I'm sorry, not charge. But they change monthly, so you're gonna wanna go actually to the Hawaiian Electric website and look at what the actual rates are at the time. And again, like I said, they differ by island too. But generally speaking, if you opt into this pricing model, you'll have extremely cheap electricity in the middle of the day because they're trying to use more solar midday. So it works really well for people who are retired, have flex schedules, maybe are students and are home during the day. It doesn't make sense for everyone, but if it does make sense, it can be a really great deal. This chart shows the cost to fuel various sedans on Oahu based on recent electricity and fuel prices. So this is actually assuming a 10,000 mile a year driving pattern. And even from fueling the grid normally without any special what about Kauai costs? So Kauai does not have time of use pricing. The utility just doesn't offer it. So you would just be paying the normal electricity rates at all times. But as you can see from this chart, this assumes 10,000 miles driven over 1 year. So even fueling from the grid normally, as you can see over here on the right, the Nissan Leaf fueling on residential electricity rates, you're still going to see cost savings compared to a relatively efficient gas car, a 37 mile per gallon gas car. Buying an EV as a homeowner in Hawaii is a no-brainer. You can literally plug in when you get home, charge overnight, and it'll be ready for you the next day. On average, Hawaii residents drive about 30 miles a day. So unless you're driving over 100 miles every day, a Hawaii homeowner should have absolutely no question about the ease of moving into an EV lifestyle. And you'll never have to stop at a gas station again. For those of you who aren't homeowners, public charging is becoming more available, and I think Sonia will be talking about that later. I do want to jump over and share a video really quickly that Blue Planet Foundation created recently in partnership with Hawaiian Electric to really showcase the convenience of charging at home. It's just a fun video with Passion Santos. I don't know if any of you are familiar with her, but pretty funny.
No! No. I'm gonna be late. Again. I'm there, Uncle. Oh, come on, brother! I'm here.
You kidding me right now?
What? You don't know how to drive? Is filling up leaving you drained? Make your next car electric at electricmobeta.org. I gotta give up grass.
So obviously a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's true though. It's really convenient to just charge at home, and you never have to really stop at a gas station again. So let's go on to the next slide. I know I'm running short on time, but okay. So of course, some EV drivers are also motivated by the fact that these cars can help us mitigate the imminent threat of climate change. So EVs have no tailpipe emissions and they're highly efficient. And as the grid keeps getting cleaner, these cars are fueled from cleaner and cleaner electricity every day. That Prius that you buy will always be powered from the same amount of fossil fuels, which will add up over its lifetime. But the EV that you buy each day will be fueled more and more by renewables, making it cleaner. So this actually shows the per mile emissions for electric vehicles on the various islands compared to the average gas car on the road. This was from 2019 grid data. So as you can see, compared to an average car on the road, even today, electric vehicles are emitting dramatically less greenhouse gases. I think this graph is really interesting. It's hard sometimes to visualize what it means to emit less greenhouse gases over the lifetime of a vehicle. So this chart shows the per mile emissions for electric vehicles versus efficient gas hybrids, which is that yellow flat line there, because of course, as I said, a Prius is always going to emit the same amount. This is over time. So per mile emissions over time. So today is kind of this left end of the graph. So as you can see, the Prius is kind of on line with the most efficient battery electric vehicles right now. But if you look at the average gas car in Hawaii, all of this space between that green line up top and these electric vehicle lines down here that keep decreasing, that's the emissions over the life cycle of this vehicle that you are emitting by not driving an electric vehicle. And if you go to the next slide, we can zoom in on the bottom half of this graph, because I think this is where people get tripped up a lot. And they think, well, I can buy a Prius and it's just as good as an electric vehicle. And maybe right this second, it's emitting about the same. And this is a statewide average also, which I think is worth noting. If you're on a neighbor island, EVs are already dramatically better per mile than even the most efficient gas car. But on an average, they're about the same. But as soon as we hit 32% renewable energy, which is, we were at 30% last year. So this year, EVs begin to take the lead. And the space between that yellow line and these orange and green lines, that's the difference in emissions over the life cycle of these vehicles. So that gap really adds up and makes a really big difference. And lastly, a full battery electric vehicle is eligible for $7,500 in federal tax credits. The credit is available until a certain manufacturer has sold 200,000 total EVs in the US. So Tesla and GM are no longer eligible. Plug-in hybrids are also eligible for a tax credit between $2,500 and $7,500, depending on the battery size and capacity. And you can check fueleconomy.gov to see the exact number for a particular vehicle. Locally, the free parking benefits unfortunately recently expired, but there are purchase rebates available from time to time through Hawaiian Electric. Some public chargers are also free, which can be helpful in saving money on fuel. And then HDOT has expressed that they're still going to allow HOV lane access, although that also was expired with the parking benefits. I haven't seen it formalized anywhere in writing, which I'm still waiting to see, but they have written it in a news article that they were not going to penalize EVs for driving the HOV lane. So don't take my word for it, but theoretically, I think it's okay. But yeah, so that is my presentation on the benefits and incentives of driving EV.
Lauren, thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
I am going to stop the share and we're going to do another poll. So this is for everybody to participate in. And it's essentially a guess for how many EVs there are in our state. Is it about 1,000, about 8,000, about 12,000, about 50,000? Okay. So we have most of us have guessed correctly. We have over 12,000, I think it's 12,400 or so as of August across the state. And if I recall correctly, most of them are in Oahu, followed by Maui, Big Island, and Kauai. So I'll just add that in the state, there are over 1 million passenger vehicles. So this is still a little over a percentage, 1% of the passenger vehicles in the state. There's quite a bit of work that needs to be done, and efforts like yours will help us get there. Great. So I'm going to get back to our screen share, and we're going to transition to Tam.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Noelle. Thanks, Lauren. And I'm going to get a little more nitty gritty than Lauren in terms of looking at how to go about choosing your first EV or your second EV, whatever the case may be. So I'm a proud Chevy Bolt owner now for almost 2 years, and I'm going to talk about my process and how it can be applied to your process more generally here. I'm going to look at range, power, drive quality, cost, aesthetics, maintenance, and then I'm going to hand it over to Sonia to talk about charging availability and costs. But first, a few kind of preliminary considerations. You, of course, need to look at your own budget, what kind of range you need. You may not need that much range because maybe you have, a 10-mile commute, or maybe you live in a big island like I do and want to have enough range to go to Kona and back. It really depends on your needs. Similarly, look at your charging needs, whether you have enough power at home, if you have an apartment, what have you. And again, Sonia's going to talk about that in more detail. Make sure the EVs can be serviced locally. That's not always the case, depends on the island you're on. And then we have great resources now in terms of talking to your island's EV club and other people you may know who own an EV. And you want to look at new or used in terms of your choice. And of course, being used, you're going to get a better deal in terms of lower cost. But typically used EVs will have much lower range. It's kind of the main consideration. There's been a really dramatic increase, as I'll show you in a second, in the range of EVs in about the last 3 years. You can also find EV certified local dealers when you're buying used. And again, make sure if you have this as a resource, bring someone who actually owns an EV and can guide you through the process and, taking test drives, etc. So looking at range and fuel efficiency, you don't want to see this. This is actually my Bolt. About the first month I owned it, I like to kind of test limits a bit. And we took it over Mauna Kea Saddle Road. And this message you get when you get low power in the Bolts. We pushed it a bit too far and we had to stop and charge at Mauna Kea State Park, and luckily found a 110 plug we could actually plug into for a couple hours. We might have made it either way, but we didn't want to risk it. And so in general, you want to avoid this, but it's kind of actually comforting to know you can generally find a plug almost anywhere to charge if you really need to. Now, when I bought my car a couple of years ago, there were really only 3 affordable EVs that had 200+ mile range, and that's now proliferated to almost 20. So there really is an explosion going on in terms of selections. And I'm going to look at just 3 that I was considering at the time 2 years ago in a little more detail. So on the left, you have the Chevy Bolt, and in the middle, you have the Tesla Model 3, which was pretty new back then. And then on the right, you have the Nissan Leaf. And 2 years ago, the Nissan Leaf was coming out just around that time with the new longer range version. So these are kind of the 3 I was looking at in detail. And the main information here, this is from fueleconomy.gov, a great site you can go to compare different cars, whether it's a traditional gas engine or an EV or what have you. And we're seeing here on the left, on the lower left, 119 miles per gallon equivalent. The E there is an equivalent, which is the way to compare EVs to gas engines for fuel efficiency. And as you all know, 119 miles per gallon is phenomenally good. No gas car gets anywhere near that. The best hybrids get mid-50s. The Tesla back then was about 123 and the Nissan Leaf about 112. So all pretty comparable, all excellent efficiency. And at the time, the Chevy Bolt was 238 miles range officially. And the mid-range Tesla Model 3, I believe, was about 250. And then the new Nissan Leaf with longer range was, I think, about 200. This just shows the updated information for the 2020 models, looking at today's situation. It hasn't changed that much. The Bolt is about the same. It hasn't had really much of a retrofit in the last couple of years. The range did improve. I believe it's now about 255. I forget the exact number, but it went up by about 20 miles range due to battery improvements. And the Tesla Model 3 now has long range options, and the efficiency went up to 130 miles per gallon equivalent. And then the Nissan Leaf has some new options too for longer range. And for some reason, their efficiency went down a little bit, but it's still quite phenomenal at 104 mpg equivalent. So looking at where you live is going to determine what kind of power you need. And again, since I live in the Big Island, I want to have a car that can get over the saddle, which is, going from 0 elevation to 6,000 feet elevation in a few miles. And any EV available today will get you over, but it might not get you over quite as smoothly. And so in this case, I wanted, quote unquote, a real car that can get over. And the Chevy Bolt has amazing power, as do almost all EVs nowadays. It's really one of the benefits of driving electric is you have really good torque throughout the whole acceleration curve. And in this case, we can get over the Saddle Road going, if I want to drive fast, I can go up to 70 miles per hour, no problem at all. And then drive quality is, a similar consideration. And this depends on what you're used to and what you expect. Do you want that kind of luxury experience of a Tesla Model S, or are you okay with, a less, luxury experience for a cheaper EV? Now, cost is a big consideration. And for me, I didn't want to spend too much. I don't mind confessing I've been a huge Tesla fan for a long time, but I did the numbers, and I really couldn't quite justify buying a Tesla a couple of years ago, and that's why I went for the Chevy Bolt. I don't regret it at all. I love my Bolt. And it's important to realize that upfront costs can be higher for EVs. But as Lauren mentioned, there are pretty serious tax credits, and there's also various rebates available now from sellers. And even though the tax credits have gone away for the Tesla and Chevy Bolts because they reached their 200,000 threshold for cars sold, there are now a number of rebates available for the Bolt, which bring down the upfront costs substantially. And then a key thing to consider in your buying considerations is the fuel cost savings. And this really mounts up quite a bit. I did a little spreadsheet here. I'm quite a numbers geek. And I found, after crunching the numbers from my situation, that if you look kind of on the right side, the monthly cost after the tax credit plus gas savings for the Model 3 would have been about $279 per month. But for the 2018 Bolt, which I got a pretty good deal on from my local dealer, it was only $124. And so really, I looked at it as kind of like another cell phone bill to own a really amazing car and get me out of my my SUV, which was kind of a gas guzzler at the time. And I'm happy to share my spreadsheet with anyone who wants to see it, and you can just plug in your own numbers if you like. Now, of course, you want to consider the look and aesthetics of your car, and that's just a personal choice. There's a number of cars now that I think are really beautiful cars and highly functional, non-emitting. This is the Kona Electric, the new one, the Hyundai Kona, and it's a great car, mid to high 30s now, upfront purchase cost. And then on the right is the Tesla Model 3, a really attractive car also. Maintenance is really important. Where are you going to get checkups and repairs? And where I live, Chevy actually does not service the Bolt because they don't have, trained technicians to handle the electric drivetrain. So they farm that out to Toyota, which has experience because of their long experience selling hybrids, the Prius in particular. And I've had no problems, using Toyota for my various needs. I've had a few little issues here and there, and it hasn't been a concern for me. But make sure when you do buy a car, that you check to see where you will get it maintained. And that's it. I'm going to hand it off to Sonia to talk about charging availability and costs. But first, I think Lauren is going to talk a little bit about the EV Expert program. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, Blue Planet Foundation and the Sustainable Transportation Coalition of Hawaii launched this EV Expert certification program. So we go around to dealerships across the state and train their sales staff on everything electric vehicles. So everything from the experience of owning an electric vehicle, charging technologies and locations, how to access charging, different lifestyles of EV ownership, incentives and benefits, the whole gamut. So we train them, and then they pass a certification test, and then we put them on our Find an EV Expert tool online. So you can go to hawaiievexperts.org if you're interested. And essentially, once you know what EV you want, you can go on there and either find a dealership near you, find a certified EV expert near you, and then you know that you're going to be provided with a better dealership experience, and you won't end up with someone who doesn't know about the tax credit or gives you wrong information about the tax credit. It helps to break down that barrier at the dealership. So we want to make sure that everyone going in for an electric vehicle has a positive experience, and that's really the goal of this program. So we continue to certify people. We've shifted online this year because of COVID. So we've actually turned the certification to an online training. But yeah, if you also know of anyone at a dealership that you worked with that was great, please send them my way, because they could easily pass the test and then be promoted through our website and through our social media. And we want to promote those individuals that actually know about EVs and know what they're talking about. So yeah, that's our EV Expert certification program.
Lauren, thank you very much for that. I think prior to that, a number of us have actually been playing the role of educating dealers about the products that they serve, or that they sell. So this program has been a boon in terms of just having more empowered salespeople across the state. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's something that, you know, it's a problem both here in Hawaii and across the country. Just generally speaking, a lot of dealership sales associates have, it's been documented through a number of studies of the bad experiences people have trying to purchase EVs. So we wanted to help break that down, at least here in Hawaii.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to be transitioning to Sonia Cass, who's the lead at Kauai EV, and she's going to be sharing with us information about charging. Sonia?
Aloha, everyone. I'm going to talk about chargers and charging today, and some of the most important upfront considerations on buying an EV is charging. Where will I charge? How often do I need to charge? And how long do I need to plug in for? Also, what time is the best or cheapest, most renewable energy on the grid? And how much will it cost me? So let's start right with, can you change please, slide? The EV charging speeds. You can plug into a standard outlet, a level 1 charger, which is available everywhere. As Tam has mentioned before, if you run out of charge, that's your option. And it's slow. It adds about 5 miles for every hour of charging, but the typical commute in Hawaii is about 40 miles. So you plug it in overnight and you take it in the morning. A level 2 charger is on a 240-volt circuit, and it charges much faster, gives you much more flexibility. If you're going on longer drives, you'll want to install a charging station if you can. So typically EV fills in 4 to 8 hours, and it adds 30 miles per hour. In Hawaii, we get a little bit better mileage. I'll get to that later. And the public charging stations are usually level 2 chargers, and we have a few DC fast charging stations. They're much faster. They fill up in 30 to 40 minutes, even faster on an older EV or a Nissan Leaf. On the right, the illustration shows a standard J1772 charging plug. The cord comes with all EVs, and yeah, that's for level 1 and level 2 charging. Tesla has a different plug. How often and how long do I need to charge? It's another question I get asked. You know, it depends, of course, on the charging speed that we just covered. Also on the size of the battery and range. You can fill up a small battery on an older Nissan Leaf much faster than the 3 times bigger battery on a more modern EV or a Tesla. Of course, it takes you 3 times as long as well. The length of your commute is a factor. The more you drive, the more often you have to charge. And the temperature. We are at a big advantage in Hawaii because the warm temperatures we have are much better for driving an EV than, for example, very cold temperatures like in Canada, or super hot temperature like in Phoenix. And last, of course, the driving style. If you drive more sporty, you need to charge more often because your economy goes down. So the options are home charging, work charging, or public charging, or a combination. The factors there will be, of course, the availability is number 1. Reliability, cost, ease of use, convenience, and most importantly, do you own, rent, or live in a condo? Let's look at that in more detail on the next slide. The charging convenience. If you can install a charger at home, it's super convenient. You just park the car whenever you get home and you plug it in and it's ready for the next drive. For renters, a mobile level 2 home charging station might be an option to plug into a dryer outlet. Condo homeowners associations often let owners install chargers because they're required by law to do so. It can still be a hassle. And lastly, we have charger sharing and public charging networks. they will become more and more available statewide in the near future. And they are not as convenient, but many dedicated EV drivers make it work. Home chargers, as I said before, are super convenient. And that's why 80% of the charging takes place at home. They charge much faster than plugging into an outlet. As I said before, 6 times as fast. Time of use rates are available on many islands, sadly not on Kauai, but we hope that will change. You can take advantage of the cheaper rates or the cleaner grid by using a programmable charger or programming your car to only charge when it's deepest or the cleanest. For example, Kauai has almost 100% renewable energy on the grid at noon on a sunny day. The federal tax credit of 30% on purchase and installation is also an important factor. So the charger is cheaper than it seems. Next slide, please. When you purchase a home charger, make sure you buy from a reputable manufacturer. Just a few are Juicebox, Siemens, ChargePoint, Clipper Creek. Look at the ratings and maybe talk to other EV owners to see what they like. Make sure it's UL listed. It's a safety certification. You can get them at many outlets, including Lowe's, Costco, Amazon, Home Depot, Walmart. You might have to order through the website, but you can pick up at the store. And EV dealers also sell or recommend chargers. If you have a Tesla, you'll get the Tesla specific charger, which has a different plug. Costs are usually $500 to $1,000 on the charger, including installations, except for if you have a very old electricity installation and they need to add new breakers or new panel or a very long cable to where you want to charge. Slide, please. The installation needs to happen on a dedicated 220 volt circuit, or portable ones plug into a dedicated dryer outlet. Many people have washer and dryer in the carport. And so if you're a renter and you're fortunate, you can just buy a 30 amp mobile charging station that will charge your car just as fast as any installed charger. Most licensed electricians can install the circuit in the charging station. And if you want to be completely sure, you can go to Tesla's website. They have a support page for certified local electricians. They're able to install any charger. Next slide, please.
Hey, Sonia, pardon me for interrupting, but I also want to emphasize what you mentioned earlier about the fact that our electric cars, when you purchase them, typically come with a mobile charging unit that can be plugged into 110 or 220. So yes. In reality, you can bypass having to purchase a home charging station, more permanent one, and just utilize the one that comes with the car. What's important is
Sorry, the one that comes with the car, I have had mine modified to plug into my dryer outlet, but it's still at 16 amps. It charges twice as fast as the regular level 1. It's like a European trickle charge. So it charges at 2.4 kilowatts every hour. And the regular mobile charging station charges at 6.6 kilowatts an hour. So different ways to charge.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm running short on time, so I'm gonna go to public charging. There are many pros and cons on public charging. Of course, people who really need it are renters, condo dwellers, and people who live off grid. They should always get the priority on those. DC fast charging, all of us sometimes are in a hurry and are glad to plug in at a DC fast charger. Older and short range models are still dependent on public charging. They might have to charge at their destination to get back home. Then there are unexpected trips, or we forget to plug in. So these are the people who need the public charging network. And then there's opportunity charging. Oh, there's a free charger, it doesn't cost me money, I will plug in. The downside to public charging is you never know. The station could be in use. My photo here shows the station being blocked by a car that's not plugged in. We call that icing for internal combustion engine car, or this one is just blocking it because it's a plug-in car that just parked there for convenience. There's also often a lack of maintenance. On Kauai, usually 20 to 25% of our charging stations are down on any given time, and we don't have enough of them. And uncertainty, you know, if you really need the charge, you might not get it where you expected. So this one, this is the map that I got from Blue Planet. Shows we have 260 charging outlets statewide. They are concentrated in the urban area, like in Honolulu. It makes for 18 cars per charging station. So we're really trying to work on increasing the numbers. The range from completely free to plug in to $10 just to plug in. So be aware of that and make sure you know where you're charging. We do have Tesla destination chargers on most islands, and the superchargers are planned for 2 for Oahu, 1 for Maui, and I think there's talk about 1 on the Big Island. As I said before, the rural areas are more disadvantaged. Here, this is a supercharger map, so you can do a fast charger map, so you can fill up quickly, none on Kauai. And we have apps that are very helpful. You gotta figure out which charging networks are in your area. PlugShare will help with that. It's a crowdsourced database of EV charging stations, and they have helpful maps online, and the app is great. On Kauai, you have 2 charging networks. On Honolulu, you have 19. So ChargePoint you'll probably need everywhere. SemaConnect, you know, then there's some Greenlots, Volta. You'll figure all of that out on PlugShare. And lastly, if you have time, you'll get the presentation. You can look at charging and battery care. Every charging cycle ages the battery. And to avoid degradation, keeping the battery between 20 and 80% is best. And if you have an older car or a Nissan Leaf, you might want to look at that in more detail because of the thermal management. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you. You can ask questions later.
Sonia, thank you so much. Actually, we'll transition into Q&A. Olive, have we any questions in the chat that might be relevant to our speakers?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for everyone for submitting your questions. And some of these have already been addressed in the chat. But Tam, Joran asks, how often do you use the level 3 fast charger on the Big Island to get across from one side to the other? Also, do you own a boat?
Yeah, great question. So when I got my car, the Chevy Bolt 2018 model, I did not have solar at home. And when you charge at home, you're paying, pretty high rates because electricity on the Big Island and in Hawaii in general is fairly expensive. And so the real, cost saver is getting solar at your home, which is really quite cheap nowadays in terms of the actual price you pay for electricity. Before I had solar in my house, I was charging entirely away from my house at various level 2 chargers and then occasionally fast chargers. And so yes, when I go to Kona, what I'll do is, if I leave with a full charge from my house here, I live south of Hilo. And if I'm going to Kona and back, that's about, 3 hours of driving at least. If I go there and back on a full charge, I'm going to be okay. But typically speaking, you go somewhere else when you're on that side, go to the beach, go to go to town, etc. So I'll often just top up at a fast charger. The one I've used a few times is in the Hilton Waikoloa area. And when you stop into the fast charger, because they are so powerful and fast, in 15, 20 minutes, you've got, a quarter tank or more. So it's pretty convenient. And there are now an increasing number of fast chargers around the islands. And so even if you don't charge at home, it's really not that big a deal to charge elsewhere.
Thank you for that. Dale asks, what about Kauai costs? Sonia, off the top of your head, do you have any rough figures?
Kauai costs 33 cents per kilowatt hour all day long. And that is still cheaper than fueling a Prius Prime.
Got it. Dale also asks, does KIUC participate in rebates? This question is open to all panelists.
Is that about the Nissan Leaf rebate or so first up, the Nissan Leaf rebate of $5,000 is statewide. And it's given through Hawaiian Electric, but it's good for Kauai too. And time of use rates or rebates through that are not available in Kauai, but we can petition Kauai to run another pilot because their pilot was badly designed, and hopefully we can try to get a better time of use pilot.
Got it. Does anyone have anything else to add on that question?
Nope.
Okay. T. Kusenza, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, asks, what is the law regarding requiring charging availability in condo facilities? That's a great question. Tam, do you happen to know the answer to that?
So the question is, what is the law regarding chargers in condo associations? Is that right?
Right, charging availability in condos.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any particular law that requires a charger to be installed. I don't think there is. If anyone knows differently, let me know. There is. Okay, go ahead, Sonia.
So there is a law. I forgot which law it is, but it says the condo association cannot block an owner from installing a charger. So they follow that, but they make it hard. One thing it requires is they have to have their own insurance. And maybe somebody can answer another question in the meantime, and I'll get the law on the screen. And that will take me just 1 minute. Is that good, Olive? Are there other questions?
We do have some other questions, so I can go over to those while you look that up.
Olive?
Sorry.
Yeah. So we need to move on. And what we can do for the audience is for the questions that have not been responded to, what we'll do is we'll compile a set of responses and get those posted on the website and share that with the attendees. So thank you very much for all the questions, and we're going to move on just so that we'll be able to get to our panel discussion, which should start momentarily.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was great. Before we do that, though, I'd like to turn this over to Nanette for our first activity.
Hi, everybody. Hope you guys are enjoying all this great information that we're getting from all our speakers. So I'm the prize giveaway person. So today we've got 2 prize giveaways, and we've actually got a bunch of different items from Blue Planet, Nissan, and Tesla. We've got water bottles, hats, and a bunch of other fun stuff. Tesla's even donated an overnight test drive certificate if you're on Oahu, where you can take home any Tesla model for the night. So the way we're going to do this is we've got all your names in, we're going to do a spin the wheel. So I'm going to share my screen here. That's how we're going to pick. Let me, okay. Can everybody see my wheel there? And we're going to go ahead and pick the first winner. So Bruce Barraclough. Not sure if I got your name right. Congratulations, so you're the winner. What I'll do is I see you here on the attendee list. I'll message you and private message you to figure out how we can get that prize to you. So stay tuned. We've got another prize giveaway towards the end of this webinar. Thanks, Noel.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen again so that we can watch another fun video, and that's coming up now.
Honey, do you think it's time we get an electric car?
Electric? Serious? Our car works just fine. Why would I want one of those?
I don't know. I see more and more people driving them. And they're just so clean and quiet, and they really have power.
This car has all the power we need. Plus, we can drive it around the island and not have to worry about finding a place to plug it in. Plus, we can take her around the island with a few bales of hay and not have to worry about where to get gasoline.
But darling, the automobiles are so modern and powerful.
But trusty Kahiko here is 1 horsepower. What more will we need? And who knows how those strange automobile contraptions work? Trust me, you're gonna be glad that we held on to this faithful car. Those things aren't gonna catch on. Those things are never gonna catch on.
Don't be a horse car man. Make your next car electric.
Atta girl!
Okay, I still get a kick out of that one. I'm going to continue the screen share for PowerPoint presentation here. Give me a second. We're going to be transitioning to our panel discussion. So thanks very much for our panelists for joining us today. So I'm going to transition us now to having a conversation with local owners. You know, from all the discussions we've had so far, you really have to get behind the wheel to be able to appreciate the EV. But listening to people who actually have EVs is the next best thing. So in this next segment, I'd like to introduce a few of our owners from across the state. Noreen, who is in Oahu, Gary in the Big Island, Sharon in Kauai, Russell on Big Island, and Andy from Kauai. And folks, if you can turn your cameras on, and what we'll do is I'll ask you to essentially introduce yourselves. Just share for about 5 minutes where you're located, your time with your EV, the favorite thing that you have or that you like about your EV. And then also maybe a tip that you'd like to share with people who are considering purchasing an EV. And with that, I'll maybe start with Noreen.
Good morning, Noel. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. I am Noreen. I live on Oahu in Kulia'o, which is in East Honolulu. I've been driving electric since 2014 when I first got, or 2015 when I first got a Nissan Leaf, and really enjoyed that. And I currently have two EVs. Our family has gone totally electric, including a Kia Soul EV, which I bought used. My favorite thing about EVs is really just the low maintenance and not worrying about gas. I don't even know what the gas prices are anymore. So it's really nice not to be thinking about that. And my tip for buyers is that to consider a used electric vehicle. I just bought my 2017 Kia Soul EV back in June of this year. So it's 3 years old. It was a lease car, so it was returned to Kia and I guess put on the used car market. And it's in great shape. The battery is in good condition. The original owner took good care of it, and it really fits my needs for what I needed to do. So that's my tip, is to look, if you're thinking that EVs are too expensive, maybe look into used ones. There are probably a lot more in the market now.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Noreen. So who do we have next on the list? Gary? Gary, you there?
Let's see. My name is Gary Miller. I'm in Ninole on the Big Island, up the Hamakua coast, about 20 miles north of Hilo. Been here about 5 years. I've had a number of different hybrid vehicles. Up until 2012, I bought a Chevy Volt, which is an electric with a gas generator. Brought it here when I lived on the mainland. It was a perfect car, only 20 miles of distance to my work, and it had 45 miles of range, so it was pretty ideal. Moved here, 20 miles from Hilo, 45 miles of range, worked out great. And then the Tesla Model 3 came out, and I traded that in for a Tesla Model 3 here, which actually has 325 miles of range. So I generally don't have any issues with going over Saddle or anywhere else on the Big Island. Been very happy with it. Really like the Tesla, like the concept of Tesla. Just as a company, it's not a car company. It's actually an energy company. They solar generation, battery storage, and oh, by the way, they sell cars too. So cars was their way to get into developing improved battery capabilities, which allows them to expand into the other areas. So the thing I like most about my particular EV, besides all the emissions, which all EVs are good with, is that it allows me to get updates. So the car improves over time. It's much better than when I bought it 2 years ago. So December, I will have had it for 2 years, and it's gotten so many upgrades that it's just amazing. It's the only vehicle that you don't have to wait for another model year to come out before you can get an improvement on it. So let's see, that's about all I got. So back to you, Noel.
Gary, thank you very much for sharing that. Sharon from Kauai.
My partner and I were at a stoplight when a red Mustang convertible pulled up with the top down, and he went vroom, vroom, revving his engine and looking at us. I was so surprised when my partner, when the light turned green, floored the accelerator. Now, electric cars, when they accelerate, they just keep going. They don't have that slowdown that the internal combustion engine does as it shifts up, which means I was slammed back in my seat like I'm riding a mother freaking rocket ship to the moon. Now, at the next stoplight, the red convertible pulled up even again, and the young man looked at us and gave us a thumbs up. Aloha. My name is Sharon Geiken Westerberg. I'm 79 years old. I'm a grandmother of 2 grandsons. I live most of my time on Kauai, some of my time in California. I own 2 electric vehicles, a Nissan Leaf and a Tesla Model 3. It all began in 2017 when the National Electric Association had their promotion for driving electric. Kauai EV, our local club, advertised that they were having a ride and drive at the college, Kauai Community College. At that time, I was just curious, mildly interested. There I met Andy and Sonia Cass. Andy let me drive their Nissan Leaf, and I found it was easy. Just push a button. Everything else was the same, the steering wheel, the foot peak. When I got back, I asked Sonia all kinds of questions, which she answered. She told me about chargers around the island. She told me about different brands, prices, rebates, incentives, tax credits. By the time I left, I was pretty interested. And that spring, my partner and I bought our first electric car, a Nissan Leaf, for $10,000 each. A year later, Tesla announced that they wanted to sell a more affordable car at $35,900. And I thought, well, gee, I could do that. The average price of an electric car today is internal combustion car is $34,900. That's comparable. 2 days later, I reserved my car. I took ownership in 2019 of my beautiful red Tesla Model 3. I can't say enough about this car. I feel like it's almost like a person. As I walk up to the car, it unlocks. When I get in the car, it remembers my settings, the seat, the steering wheel position, the rear view mirror, the side mirrors. I can say something like Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and up pops a map with the route and all the plugins along the way. The superchargers are really cool. They recognize the car and they automatically charge expense to my account. They can charge up to 500 miles per hour. Locally, I belong to the club, the Quiet EV, and and I also belong to the National Electric Auto Association and Quiet EV. Purpose of these clubs is to promote the adoption of electric vehicles. Every time I get in my car, I say to myself, I just love this car. I've had new cars before, but this one makes me feel good. I feel proud. It's quiet. Its acceleration is smooth. I don't have to wait at Costco to buy gas. It's cheaper to run, cheaper to maintain. What's not to like? Most of all, I like that there are no emissions, tailpipe emissions, which means a cleaner, healthier planet for my kids and grandchildren. If you're thinking about getting another car, make it electric. This is a long-term investment. People are keeping their cars for 10 years now on average. This is the wave of the future. Be part of this change. Be a trendsetter. I'm never looking back.
Sharon, thank you. Thank you. That was great. Russell.
Thank you. I'm Russell Ruderman. I live in Puna, just outside Hilo on the Big Island. I'm a business person and also a state senator for about 4 more weeks after about 8 years of doing so. I currently own my second Nissan Leaf, and I love it. I love it not because it's a Nissan Leaf, but because it's an electric vehicle. I think I would be just as much in love with any of the models we've discussed. I did a 3-year lease on a Nissan Leaf for my car over in Oahu because I spent part of the year over there with legislature. And after 3 years, I had the experience of the great satisfaction that comes with owning an electric car. And I knew how much I liked both the car itself and the whole technology. So when the lease was up, the new Leaf had come out with an increased range of about 160 instead of 80 miles. And I thought that was worth, forgive me those of you who've heard it before, I thought that was worth turning over a new Leaf for. And I purchased the Leaf and I'm very happy with it. And in fact, we're scheduled to ship it to the Big Island soon as my time on Oahu is done. One of my favorite things about owning it is driving past gas stations, never stopping there unless I need air in the tire. It's just a great source of satisfaction. It's not just the time saved, but when you think about what that gas station is really doing to our planet, it's very satisfying. I wanted to comment a little bit in terms of tips for new buyers. I've had so many people tell me, oh, the electric vehicle is just too expensive. And some of you, particularly I think Lauren, really debunked some of that in her analyses of the price comparisons, and Tam did that with the cost. One thing I never really hear too much about is a comparison of the ongoing maintenance costs besides just gas. You know, we don't have to do tune-ups, oil changes, the starter doesn't break, the radiator, the transmission, the engine, all those things don't break and don't need maintenance. So as you get into 5 years with a car or 10 years with a car, the amount of money you're saving by not having that engine to maintain, to me, makes it obvious that electric vehicle is actually the most economical new car you can buy right now. And I really don't understand why that's not more in the public consciousness. But I know we're all working on that. There was some mention earlier about greenhouse gas use for the electric vehicle. I'm trying to understand that. I think that's if you're plugging it into utility and how much the utility is using greenhouse gas. But I think the point perhaps got lost that if you're using PV, photovoltaic panels on your house, there isn't any greenhouse gas at all. So for those of us that care about that, it's a huge potential saving. Lastly, I think I would like to mention one of the reasons I think it's so important for us in Hawaii to establish the use of electric vehicles. As was already mentioned, I think by Lauren, we have the great advantage of very limited driving distances. So we, of all regions, can prove the viability of electric vehicles and provide acceptance of them. And that's so important. Hawaii is a relatively small market, but we have this unique place in the world where we have an outsized influence. People come here on vacation, or at least maybe they will again soon. But in any case, and you look at hula, you look at ukulele, you look at aloha, Hawaii has an influence on the world beyond its proportional size. And I think if people come here or people look at statistics and see Hawaii adopting electric vehicles and proving how well they work and how satisfying it is, that we can have a big influence on the rest of the world. And that's doubly important because we have a tremendous carbon footprint in Hawaii under normal times that comes in large part from our air travel. Now, we're already making quite a bit of progress on our carbon footprint for electricity. And air travel is going to be a very difficult one to solve. So electric vehicles, personal vehicles, decarbonizing them is really the low-hanging fruit that we have, and it's our part to do that. So I'm just so excited about everyone who's helping to promote electric vehicles. Thank you all, Noel and everybody that's put this together. And thanks for including me. Mahalo. Aloha, everybody.
Russell, thank you. Thank you very much. Very meaningful. Our last owner who will be speaking is Andy. Andy, you there?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Andy Cass. I live on Kauai. We live on the east side in Kapa'a, Wailua area, if you know. So we have owned in the family a Nissan Leaf since almost exactly 6 years now. In 2014, we bought a Nissan Leaf 2015 model year. And we liked it so much that 3 years later, we got a second Leaf. And so now we're a 2-Leaf all-electric family. I'm fortunate I get to work from home. This is my home office here. And, so we have solar on the house. And so we have the cars home during the day, unless we're running an errand, of course. And so the great thing is, we can charge, the energy comes straight from our solar panels and fills the battery. So, quote, we're driving on sunshine, literally. And, that feels really good that when you're out and about, you're not adding pollution to the island, it's quiet. And that's a great thing. And so, like I said, we've had a Nissan Leaf for 6 years. We bought it new, but now it's like a 6-year-old car. It's got 50,000 miles, has a few dings. So it actually has become this great little island car. It's kind of like, Toyota Corollas or, used to be known as the little reliable car that just went. Well, that's kind of what the Leaf is. You get this little car that goes everywhere. I've driven a Tesla. I love Teslas, but to have a little car, I don't worry about driving into the bad parts of town. And yes, we have them here on Kauai. And, things like that. It just goes, it does what it needs. So I guess my tip for the buyer is the used market. So Nissan Leaf sold a lot before. There's a fair amount on the used market. You can get them for $6,000 to $8,000. These are going to be older cars. You know, like I said, it's going to be like an island car. They're going to have, you know, anywhere from 50 to 100,000 miles driven. And the thing about the battery is when you drive that much, you know, the battery loses range. So my little Nissan Leaf, when it was new, you know, so 6 years ago, it got 110 miles. You know, now, of course, the Teslas and the Niros, they get 200, 300 miles. That's great. So this is kind of a different market. It's, you know, we're a small island. People have short commutes most of the time, although some people, you know, go from the North Shore to Lihue. But, you know, you can find a cheap used car and you can, you know, talk to the dealer, make sure you check out the range of it and see what's left. Sometimes they'll have as low as 60 miles of range that's available. So you kind of have to work it out, but it can work if you have like a place to charge near your work. If you're commuting, or like me, you work from home, you know, contractors that just, you know, drive locally, you can get around and, you know, still have plenty of charge, get down to the beach. You know, my Leaf now has about 80 miles of range, and I only charge up about twice a week. Of course, you know, I work from home. That's great. I'm lucky. But, you know, I take the dogs out every day, but it's only a couple miles to the beach. I go to Lihue. That's 10 miles each way, so that's like 20 miles. So I end up doing a lot of stuff, not even bothering to plug in until a couple days later. And then, you know, the sun is shining. Like I said, we got the solar. Just plug in, so I know I'm charging from the sun. Just want to remind people that, you know, used cars, they're not as fancy and shiny as nice as Teslas, but they're a lot cheaper. They still get the job done just for running around, getting stuff done. I know families that have two cars. You know, they have on the mainland, they'd have a electric for commuting and doing errands and stuff, and then, you know, they have their gas car if they you know, want to do long trips still, you know, away from the charger network. So obviously a used Leaf is a possibility here in Hawaii, and I really encourage people to look into it. Thank you.
Andy, thank you very much. I think many of us can relate to what you just shared in terms of access to excellent transportation options with pre-owned EVs. Even Teslas, pre-owned Teslas, they can be had at a fairly substantial discount over new. So it's certainly an opportunity that everyone should look into. To our owners on the panel, thank you so much. Your stories were incredibly inspiring. I'm glad to hear humor in there as well. But more importantly, it just highlights the fact that there's so much that we can do individually to help the planet by making the choice to consume less, and where we need to consume, be aware of our carbon footprint. Driving an electric allows us to instantly contribute to the planet's healing. So thank you very much. With that, I would like to transition us into Q&A, and with that, I'll turn it over to Olive as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Noel. So as a quick question, Jordan is asking if there are any EV owners who live here on Maui. So if you are joining us from Maui, please give us a shout on the chat. Ruda is asking, or she says, I've been told to charge only to 80%. But one, how can I catch it at 80%? And two, I need a 100% to be able to make longer trips. My car has lost 1 bar. I hear there's a way to fill the battery cells to return it to full working. Is there? Andy?
I can answer that one. Since I have a same thing, used Leaf, 1 bar is missing, so if I say I get about 80, 85 miles. So the charging to 100 or to 80 is valid. Sonia had that graph listed where, you know, it's better to charge between 20 and 80%. The one thing is not to worry about it too much. If you plug it in, you forget it, and you leave it charged up a lot, you look at the little lights blinking. It has 3 little lights. So once it's on the 3rd light blinking, you know it's getting near 80%. So I just, I wing it. I do try to unplug at 80%. Sometimes it charges up to 85 or 90. I don't worry about it. Then sometimes you do need 100%, like if I want to drive, down to the South Shore or something. And then you just let it charge up to 100% and try to drive it away that same day. Now, don't leave it sitting charged a lot, they say. It's all like guidelines. It's not going to hurt the car if it sits overnight, charged at 100%. Don't do it all the time is kind of what they're saying. Just, try to avoid it. So you just got to take it easy and not worry too much about it. The cars, they're solid, they're flexible, they're easy to use. Just follow the guidelines and not worry if it charges too much.
Thank you. Stefan is asking for a comparison between the Tesla 3 and the Kia Niro for the Big Island. Does anyone have any experience with that, or has anyone done any comparisons themselves? Tam, did you look into either of those in your comparison when you were doing?
I can give, Tam here. I can give this very, quick comparison. I've not driven the Kia Niro, but from all accounts I've heard it's a great car, and it's about the same price now as the Tesla Model 3. You can get longer range Model 3 options if you choose to pay a bit more. And I think it's really just a question of kind of, in this case, how much range do you want to pay for? And aesthetics. I think basically all the long range EVs now are high quality, get the job done, drive really well, have great power. And beyond that, it's a question of aesthetics and brand loyalty. So I think, if you're looking in that range for the 200+ mile EVs, you generally can't go wrong. Drive them, talk to friends who own them, check it out yourself.
Awesome, thank you. Tam asks, will tax credits be renewed for Tesla or Chevy? Does anyone know about that?
The federal tax credits are always up for either being cut entirely at the federal level or being extended or being expanded. It's really hard to say what's going to happen at that level. So there are no, I think, plans to bring them back or no inkling that that is something that's, on the cusp of happening. So we kind of just have to wait and see what happens on that front.
Got it. Thank you, Lauren. I have a question. As someone who lives on the Big Island, having all-wheel drive is really important for me when I'm considering cars. Do we know what options are on the market for all-wheel drive EVs?
Most EVs are four-wheel drive because the way am I correct in this? Because the way the motor works, it latches on with all four wheels. But I think the question is like off-roading, that's a little different.
Right.
It's about height as well. So, I mean, there's like SUV models that are available. Trucks are slated to come out in 2021, 2022. And that'll really be a game changer for sort of the off-roading four-wheel drive market. There's like a Subaru plug-in hybrid. Tesla is four-wheel drive. I think someone mentioned that in the chat as well. But are they really great cars for off-roading? That's debatable. So someone else might have a better answer, but.
Gary,
that is all we have for the Q&A unless,
Sorry, go ahead. Someone had a comment?
This is Gary Miller. I was just going to say that, there's nothing that's really dedicated for off-roading. Four-wheel drive are options on multiple versions of cars, and they're good for like snow and that kind of thing. But general, right now, if you really want to do off-roading, there really isn't anything on the market that you could purchase this year. Like she said, trucks 21, 22, somewhere in there. A lot of folks are entering the market, but nothing right now. That's all.
Thank you.
I think in our next webinar, we will be probing into some of the future EVs as well. So that might be a good opportunity to learn about that. Someone raised their hands. There was W raised. Someone with the ID of W raised their hand in the participants list. Did that person?
Bill raised his hand.
Okay. So did we address the question? Okay. I am going to.
Yeah, I was going to say Richard did clarify too in the chat that if you have a dual motor Tesla, then you get power to all 4 tires, but most EVs are just 2-wheel drive. So I was incorrect in that, but correct in that not a lot of off-roading capabilities at this point.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going
to.
to.
This is Andy again. So I have an older Leaf. I don't worry taking it on a dirt road. I'm not going off-roading. I'm not going to do high clearance, rutted stuff like the lifted trucks, of course. But we have dirt roads up in Kokee. We have dirt roads to Polihale, Mahaulepu, get to the beach. I don't worry about taking it. I go slow, it's got bumps and stuff, but, it does it, right? I don't worry about getting it dirty or anything. So again, that's what makes it a great island car.
We do have another question while we're transitioning or before we transition.
Yes.
If you buy a used EV from a private party, a non-dealer, how can you be assured about the health of the battery and real current range? It's a really good question. I know that you can take EVs to dealerships and have them check the battery for you. So my advice would be to take it to a dealership, even though you're not buying it from the dealership, and ask them or pay them to do the test before you purchase it. They can tell you what the actual capacity is. I don't know if anyone else has other advice for Nancy.
That's great. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a tool called Leaf Spy, and it's called Other Spy for other models. And that works with OCBD plug. You just plug that in, and the app on your smartphone will tell you the state of the battery. And that's probably cheaper and easier than taking it to a dealership. I think costs about like $40, $50, the combination of the app and the tool, and it's always useful later on.
Yeah, I'll just add the advice as well to get in touch with the dealership to have the car inspected. It's worth the investment. So if you're buying a Tesla, for example, there are some considerations, shipping the car, et cetera. But if you have access to a dealership for the vehicle that you're purchasing, they can do those inspections, right? And then the battery is certainly a consideration, but there are other things as well, suspension and so on and so forth. So it's worth the investment, I would say. So before we end, I'd like to transition over to Nanette to give us essentially heads up on some upcoming events.
Thanks, Noel. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed those interesting stories from the owners. It's actually great to hear owner stories versus going to a dealer when oftentimes they don't drive those cars. So hearing from the owners was really great. So today's the first day of National Drive Electric Week, and we've got a couple more events that are going to be happening this week. First off, on Thursday, Drive Electric Hawaii is hosting an EV trivia night. So for all you trivia people out there, this is going to be a fun event. So if you just go to their website, driveelectrichawaii.com, you can register for the event. It's on October 1st from 5:30 to 7 p.m. and you can win prizes. And then next up, we have the second part of the Hawaii EV webinar series, and Noel kind of alluded to part of this. It's the future of EVs in Hawaii, and that's on next Saturday, October 3rd, same time, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we're going to talk about the future of EVs, what the EV trends out there, what kind of new EVs are coming out, what's the new charger technology, and then we're going to talk about also not just passenger cars, but there's buses, motorcycles, bicycles that are all electrical vehicles. Along with that, we're going to talk about renewable energy trends and how those impact electric vehicles. And finally, we have a speed bump panel where we're going to have a panel of industry experts from Blue Planet. Lauren will be on again, Drive Electric Hawaii, HECO, and we'll have some legislators, Nicole Lowen as well, talking about their strategies for the electrification of transportation here in Hawaii. So we've got two great events coming up for this Drive Electric Week, and we really hope that you can attend. For the Hawaii EV webinar, you can go to our website at hawaiiev.org to register.
So the next slide here is essentially a transition back to Lauren. Lauren, do you want to give a quick intro as I get set up here with our video?
Some of you may remember when we were asking for short clips from EV owners about why you love your EVs. So we took all of those clips and we put together a short video highlighting the benefits of EVs from the mouths of real EV owners. So we're really excited to preview that video for you all today. You might see some familiar faces. I hope you all enjoy it. So with that, I'll let you play it.
What do I love about my EV? I love my EV because I get to drive in the HOV lane. It's fast and quiet. I love it.
I love my EV because it doesn't pollute the air.
It's easy to maintain and it's comfortable.
Because it's powered by the sun.
Because it has video games.
The cheapest car I've ever owned and good for the environment.
This is the perfect car for an older person on a limited budget.
That runs off of the cheaper and cleaner energy.
I can refuel by plugging into my photovoltaic system.
It doesn't pollute the earth.
That was great. Thanks very much to everybody who actually participated in getting that video together. And Lauren, thanks again for the wonderful job that the team has done there. So
yeah, so we'll be sharing that video on the Sustainable Transportation Coalition of Hawaii social media pages, the Blue Planet Foundation social media pages, and Drive Electric Hawaii. So please share this video to amplify the message over the next week and beyond that, especially if you're in it. And we'll also be posting tons of other EV content over this week for National Drive Electric Week. So please engage with us on social. It can really help expand our reach and reach people who maybe aren't normally seeing EV content. So I'll post those social media tags in the chat box so you can go find them. And then Noelle, if you want to share the presentation again. So thanks to a really great donation from Noelle and the Hawaii EV Association, we were able to raffle off a Clipper Creek 40A plug-in EV charger model amongst the people who submitted video clips for consideration. So we're just really grateful that everyone took the time out of their day to go film those, and so grateful to Noelle for donating this prize. So we did a random name selection to figure out who won the charger, and we're really excited to announce that Jenny Doe won the charger. So yay for Jenny. I don't think she was on this call today, but congratulations to Jenny. And we're gonna get that out to her. We saw her at the beginning of that video with her Tesla talking about the HOV lanes. So thank you again to everyone that submitted videos. We weren't able to include all of them, but they were all just absolutely wonderful stories and video submissions. And we really appreciate everything that all of you do. So mahalo.
Thank you. Well, that wraps up our event. Nanette, do you have one last comment?
Yeah, just really quickly, and we're going to do one more giveaway too, but we really want to thank all the speakers and panelists for providing a lot of this useful information and sharing their experiences. And we hope we've been able to answer all your questions. We'll be answering those questions we didn't have time to answer in a later follow-up email. So please visit our website, hawaiiev.org, where there's a lot more information about the topics that were covered today. And other resources as well. We've also got social media, so please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So I'm just going to do one more prize giveaway really quickly before we let everybody go on with their Saturday mornings. And let me just share my screen really quick. Okay, here we go. Last drawing. Oh, Letty. Oh, Lisa. Lisa, let's see. Lisa B, congratulations, you won our second prize bag, and I'll be, stay on chat. I'm gonna chat with you really quickly so that I can give you my email address and you can let me know where to send that prize. So thank you everybody for attending our webinar today. And Noel, I'm not sure if you have any other closing words.
No, that was it. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Until next time, until next Saturday.
Thank you.
Aloha. Bye, everyone.